Hello everyone, welcome back to the next part of our TypeScript series. And in this video, we are exploring control flow statements in TypeScript. So let's understand the types of control flow statements. Control flow statements determine the order in which your code is executed. Also, they allow us to make decisions, repeat actions, and handle different situations. Control flow statement can be categorized into three primary types, that is conditional statement, looping statement, and branching statement. Branching statement is also called as jump statement. So under conditional statement, there are four statements: if, else if, and switch statement. And under looping statement, there are three loops: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Break and continue comes under branching statement. So let's look at one-liner definition for each control flow statements. First statement is if, else, and else if. This is a fundamental control flow structure that allows us to execute different block of code based on a condition. If statement executes a block of code if a specified condition is true. Else statement executes a block of code if the preceding if condition is false. And else if statement allows for multiple conditions to be checked sequentially. And the second statement is switch statement. It evaluates an expression and executes the corresponding block of code based on the matching case. So these two statements fall under the type of conditional statements. And next, break and continue come under jump statement, where break statement is used to determine the current loop, switch statement, or labeled statement. Or we can say break statement exits a loop prematurely, whereas continue statement is used within loops to skip the rest of current iteration and move on to the next one. So moving on, we have three looping statements: for, while, and do while, where for loops are used to iterate over a block of code a certain number of times. There are three main types of for loops in TypeScript. First is traditional for loop, second is for in loop, and third is for off loop. We will explore these types through practical examples during the hands-on. The next loop is while loop. It repeats a block of code as long as a specified condition is true. And the last loop is do while loop. This do while loop is similar to a while loop, but the code is executed at least once before the condition is checked. So that's all about the basics. Now let's open Visual Studio Code and apply these control flow statements through hands-on exercises. So here inside Visual Studio Code, I'll create one more file with name control flow statements.ts. And inside this file, I'll log one message test. Okay. And now I'll open terminal with control plus backtick. And here first I'll compile this whole project in watch mode with command tsc --watch. Enter. And after compilation, you can see control flow statements.js file is created. So now I'll open one more terminal and here I'll run this control flow statement file with command node space file name control flow statement. Enter. And here you can see output test. So now we will start writing examples of each statement here. Okay. So first I'll write down the comments to save time. So here first we will see the control flow statements and then we will see jump statements and last we will see looping statements. Okay. So under this conditional statement, first we will see the example of if, else and else if statement. So for that, I'll pause the video and I'll write the sample code to save time. So in this example, you can see I have declared one variable with name marks. Here I have written one if condition and then I have written two else if condition and at last I have written one else block. So in this case, if the if condition evaluates to true, then only this if block is executed. And if the if condition evaluates to false, then it will check the next else if condition. And if the next else if condition is also evaluates to false, then it will go to the second else if condition. And if this condition also evaluates to false,
Then finally it will print the else block, that is grade F. Okay, so this is the hierarchy of if, else and else if block. So here I have declared one variable with name marks and I have initialized a value 75. If the marks is greater than or equal to 90, then grade A will get print on console. And if the marks is greater than or equal to 80, grade B will get print on console. Similarly, if the marks is greater than or equal to 70, you can see the grade C on console. And if the mark is less than 70, then you can see the message grade F on console. So in this case, our marks is 75. Then it will go inside this second else if condition because the marks is greater than or equal to 70. Then we should get the message on console grade C. Now I'll run this file and you can see the output grade C. Okay. If I change the marks like 95, now this time first if condition evaluates to true, then it will print grade A. And if I change it to 50, in this case, it will go inside else block. I'll run this file and you can see the output is grade F. So use if statement to execute code based on a condition. Use else statement if you want to execute code when a condition is false. And use else if statement to execute code based on multiple conditions. Okay. So I'll comment out all these code and let's move on to the second statement, that is switch statement. The switch statement allows us to evaluate an expression and execute different code blocks based on the value of the expression. So here I'll quickly write down the example of switch statement and then I'll explain. So in this example, I have declared two variable, one with name day and I have assigned value 2 and second with name day name of type string. And here inside switch, I am passing the variable day. It means I am passing the value of day variable, that is 2. And inside this switch case, I have written multiple cases like case 1, case 2, case 3. And inside this case, I have initialized a value to the day name variable. Okay. And after that, I have written one break statement. Okay. And after these three cases, I have written the default case. Okay. And last, I logged one console with today's date plus I have concatenated the day name variable inside console. So here this switch expression is evaluated once at the beginning and after that this each case clause checks if the expression's value matches the specified value. Like if a match is found, then the corresponding code block is executed. And this break statement is crucial to exit the switch block after a match. Without it, execution falls through to the next case. Okay. And this last default clause executes if no case matches the expression, then this corresponding code block is executed. So here our day value equals to 2. It means it will go inside case 2 and it will execute the corresponding code block, that is day name equals to Tuesday. And after that, this break statement exit a switch statement prematurely. Okay. So I'll run this file and we will see the output. And here you can see the output. Today is Tuesday. If I change it to 1, then in that case, you can see the output today is Monday because it has executed first case. And if I assign 4 to day variable, in that case, you can see we don't have the case for 4 value. Then it will go inside default and you can see the output today is unknown. Okay, I need to save the changes. And now I'll rerun this file and you can see the output today is unknown. And now let's understand the branching statement, that is jump statements. So inside jump, there are two statements such as break and continue. Break statement is used to exit a loop or a switch statement prematurely. So just now we have seen the break statement example with switch case, but now we will see the break statement example with for loop. I'll increase the font size again, and for that here I'll write down the for loop. I'll initialize one variable, let I equals to 0 and then I is less than 10 and I plus plus. Okay, inside for loop I'll print variable I. Okay, save the changes. Now I'll run this file and you can see the output 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. But here what I want to do, I want to break this iteration when the value of I equals to 5. So in that case, I'll add one if condition here, value of I equals to 5, and inside if block, I'll add break statement. So it means if the value of I equals to 5, then break statement exit loop. So in this case, break statement help us to exit the loop when the value of I is 5. Okay. So I'll save the changes and I'll rerun this file. You can see this time the output is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is how we can use the break statement in our for loop. So next we will see the continue. So for continue, I'll use same example. In this example, if you want to skip any specific iteration, then you can use continue statement. Like here, if I want to skip the third iteration, then I can write here one more if condition I equals to 3. Then inside this if block, I can write continue statement like break statement. And this continue statement will help us to skip the iteration when the value of I is 3. Because the continue statement is used within loops to skip the rest of the current iteration and move on to the next one. Okay, I'll save these changes and rerun this file. And now this time you can see we are getting output 0, 1, 2 and 4. And without continue statement we are getting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it means that once the value of variable I equals 3, the continue statement skips the current iteration and moves on to the next, and the variable I increments by 1 becoming 4. Since 4 is less than 10, 4 will be printed to the console. So that is why we are getting output 0, 1, 2, 4. So this is how we can make use of break and continue statement in the TypeScript code. Okay, I'll comment out this example of continuous statement. And now let's move on to the last type of statement, that is looping statement. And inside looping, now let's start with for loop. This for loop repeats a block of code a specific number of times. And this for keyword is used to create loops. And as I said, there are 3 variations of the for loop, like normal for loop, and then for in loop, and then for off loop. Okay, we will see one by one. So first is traditional for loop. This loop is used when you know in advance how many times you need to iterate. And this for loop statement creates a loop. It consists of 3 optional expressions separated by semicolon and enclosed in parentheses, like for open and close parenthesis, and inside that I'll declare one variable, let I equals to 0. This is called as initialization. And next is we need to write the condition, that is I is less than 5. And the third one is expression. So here I'll increment the value of I. And after that I'll write open and close curly bracket. So here first is initialization is an expression evaluated once before the loop begins. We use the initialization to initialize a loop counter. And second is condition is an expression that is evaluated at the end of each loop iteration. If the condition is true, the statement in the loop body executed. And the third is expression. So this expression is evaluated before the condition is evaluated at the end of each loop iteration. Generally, we use the expression to update the loop counter. And all three expressions in the for loop statement are optional. Okay. Inside for loop, I log the value of I. Save the changes and run this file. You can see the output 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how it works? First, we have to declare one variable like I and initialize it to 0. Then after that, check if I is less than 5. If it is, output I to the console. And after that, increment the variable I by 1. And finally, repeat this step until I equals to 5. Okay, so this is the example of for loop. Now we will see the example of foreign loop. This foreign loop iterate over the properties of an object. So for that here I'll create one object with const keyword. The name of object is resume equals to I'll assign the values of object in the form of key value pair. So here I'll take name equals to John, experience equals to 5 years, and last technology. I'll write UI development. Okay. So this is our object, and after that I'll write one for loop, and inside this for loop I want to iterate the properties of resume object. Inside for loop I'll write the resume. So for that here I'll create local variable with name let item in resume. So here we are using in keyword, that is why this is called as for in loop. Okay, and inside this I'll log the atom. Okay, now save the changes and run this file again. Here you can see the output name, experience and technology. So here we are not getting the value of object, but with the help of foreign loop we can access the properties of this resume object. Property means keys of this object. These are the keys and these are the values. So if you want to access the properties of object, then we can make use of foreign loop in TypeScript. So now next we will see the example of for of loop. And this for of loop iterates over the value of an array. So for that I'll create here one array with name numbers and equals to I'll assign value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'll write the syntax of for of loop. So for that we need to write for keyword and inside parenthesis again here we need to declare one variable let element. This is a for of loop, so I'll use of keyword. Let element of. So here we are iterating the values over numbers. So after of I'll write numbers and then open and close curly bracket and inside that I'll log the element. So in this case, you can access the value of this number array. Okay, I'll run this file and you can see the output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if you want to access the value of array, then you can make use of for of loop, and if you want to access the properties of object, then you can make use of for in loop. Hope you understand the concept of for loop. Okay, I'll comment out all these for loop examples. And now we will move on to the next loop, that is while loop. While loop statement allows us to execute a block of code repeatedly as long as a specified condition remains true. So here I'll declare one variable with name I equals to I'll initialize value 0. And after that here I'll write while, and inside while we need to add condition. So my condition is I less than 5. And inside curly bracket I'll log the value of I. And after that I'll increment the I variable. Okay. So this is the syntax of while loop. So how it works? If the condition is true, then only the block within curly braces is executed. And after the code block is executed, the condition is evaluated again. And this process continues until the condition becomes false. Okay. So here while loop is also called as pre-test loop because the while statement evaluates the condition before its body executed. Okay, so I'll save the changes and run this file. You can see the output 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And last, we will see the example of do while loop. So for that, I'll take same example of while loop and I'll comment out this while loop example. Okay, and here I'll do minor changes. So I'll cut this while condition from here and I'll paste this after this block. And instead of while, I'll write here do. Okay, this is the syntax of do while loop, or we can say this is the example of do while loop. And after this condition, semicolon is needed. Okay, so this do while loop executes a block of code at least once and then repeats the loop as long as a specified condition evaluates to true. So here what we did, we declare one variable I and initialize it to 0 before entering the loop. And after that, we logged the variable I and increment it by 1. And then we are checking if it is less than 5, then repeat the loop until I greater than or equal to 5. It means do while statement first executes statements in its body surrounded by the curly braces and then check the condition. It means the do while statement always executes its body at least one, and that is the reason it is called as post-test loop. Okay, I'll repeat. The while loop is known as pre-test loop because it evaluates the condition before executing the loop body, whereas the do while loop is called as post-test loop since it checks the condition after executing the body at least one. Okay, so at last I'll run this file and you can see the same output 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's it for control flow statements. Thank you for watching, and if you want more tutorials like this, please subscribe to FED Learning and stay updated. Thank you. Bye bye.